Hey! What the? Honey! The water just stopped in here.
They turned it off because you're wasting water.
What? What are you talking about?
You know.
Because you know it's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought. Yeah, it's pretty clear, we're really short on blue. It's time to save it, like we're supposed to do. Some say it's doom, gloom, and all our grass must go. But together we can make it and enjoy our golden state. It's all about that drought, no water.
From the mountains to the desert, to the Pacific Ocean, to the Atlantic Ocean, and all across America, we're live from NBC News Radio Broadcasting Studio in downtown San Bernardino, California. We're live listening to the Water Zone on KCAA. Get ready for it. 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, and Ustream. That's a lot of things going on. Anyway, we're happy. I'm your host, Rob Starr. Mr. Mike Barron is off for the evening because tonight is our MIB Micro Irrigation Group Ag Show, and we have some great guest hosts, who's actually their regulars, Miss Ingy Bisconer and Mr. Paul McFadden. Welcome, guys.
Well, welcome to you, Rob.
Are you dry? Are you dry tonight? Is it? I know it's not raining out there.
Yeah, we're dry. I'm sitting here with Paul, and we actually kidnapped Mike. He was down here doing business with the MIB folks, so we're all three here, and you're there.
Ah.
So,
the team is together.
The team is together.
I like that.
Back.
I told Lydia that her husband was cheating on her and was going to have a date tonight, but unless you're doing that later.
Yeah, no, we've kidnapped him, and we love to have our landscape and urban brethren with us when we talk about agriculture and food and all that good stuff.
Excellent. Well, I'll turn it over to you guys, and I'll sit back and listen. So you're on.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, Paul and I have a couple of great guests lined up tonight. The first one will be addressing something that we've addressed in the last 2 weeks, is the upcoming California Irrigation Institute Conference, which kicks off this Monday in Sacramento. And we've already had a couple of guests talk about the keynote and the opening panel, the luncheon speaker, and all the urban sessions that will be conducted at this conference. And tonight we're going to concentrate on talking about the agricultural sessions at that conference. So we'll be advancing the conversation there. And Paul, who is our other, we have another topic that we're addressing here in the second half.
The second guest tonight is John Topham he's a general manager irrigation dealer up in the northern part of the state, talking about what's happening in his part of the world with all this rain and snow we've been hearing about, and some of the programs that we've discussed in previous shows on how technology is being implemented to be better stewards of those resources. So we've got some interesting things to talk about tonight.
So do you guys think the drought is over or it's not over? Your opinion, not the state's.
Yeah, no, that's a loaded question. That's a loaded question. We are not over improving water management. We will never be.
Yep.
Drought is. It depends on how you define drought.
Well, we do know that drought is right around the corner with the variability in weather that we've seen in the past 2 decades. We know that we'll see dry years in the future and we'll see wet years in the future. And the big question is whether climate change is exacerbating the swings between dry and wet. So only time will tell, but that's why, whether it's an ag or an urban, there's got to be a focus on good water management and being good stewards of water.
Absolutely.
Yep. But we do know the dinosaurs are not coming back.
Yeah, we're always going to have more people, and the weather's variable. So, towards that end, we want to manage our water better, and no one better to talk about that with than Mr. Jim Anschutz, who is our next guest. Jim, are you on the line?
I'm here. Good evening.
All right. Wonderful. Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Ingy. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mike.
Very good. Well, we look forward to chatting about the CII Conference's ag sessions. Before we dive into that, let me introduce our listening audience to you. Jim Andrews is very well known in the agricultural community. He's been at this for, I don't know, Jim.
Decades.
Decades. Okay,
Leave it at that.
yeah, because that's what I say now too is decades. Jim's been at it for decades. He's a professional engineer and has worked for very large farms and water districts and manufacturers in a number of different capacities. And Jim at one time was my boss and at one time was my business partner. So we go long way back as colleagues and as friends. Jim is the founder and owner these days of what he's doing is the founder and owner of Ag H2O. And that's a consulting firm that provides ag producers with technology solutions to control the rising cost of water, energy, and nutrients. And he does this through practical measurement and innovatively engineered irrigation system retrofits and upgrades. They're simple, they're proven, and they're available components used by the global water industry all over the world. That's the basis of Ag H2O systems and services. So Jim's business principle, and along with his partners, is to provide a water, energy, and nutrient cost reduction program and systems that have less than a 2-year ROI. So, quick payback. And training is a key component of their systems and services. And that's what helps ensure that ag producers will benefit from the technology that you're providing. So welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you.
Jim has also been a CII board member for a few years now. And so, Jim, as a longtime member of the California Ag Irrigation community, tell us about these ag sessions that we have put together and the joint session that you are moderating and helped organize, starting with that first ag session, which is called Implementing Sigma. What in the heck is that, Jim?
Okay, thank you, Iggy, and thank you again for having me. The first program that's on Monday afternoon is, as Iggy said, Implementing Sigma. How are we getting there? So what is Sigma? Well, that's a new Sustainable Groundwater Management Act in the state of California that is providing the industry with the challenge to better manage our groundwater for more sustainability. What this means is that local agencies must develop and implement groundwater sustainability plans for managing this limited groundwater that we have. Each of those agencies must consider several items, and there's 6. So they must look at these 6 different items and come up with a plan in order to minimize the impact that it has on them. So they must look at the groundwater levels. If there's a declining level, that needs to be part of their plan as to how we're going to minimize the decline in our groundwater levels. Land subsidence. When we pump groundwater and it's not replaced, we leave a vacuum or a space below the surface, and land has a tendency to subside. That can damage structures, buildings, highways, etc. Seawater intrusion, which is a big issue on the coast. As we pump the groundwater, seawater will move inward and degrade the quality of the water below the surface on our coastal plains. Groundwater storage reduction, and also interconnected water, surface water depletions. When you have streams and you're pumping underground water, you'll have impact on the flow in streams. In many cases, in dry years, we actually have to pump water in order to keep those streams healthy and supplying an environment for fish and animals and plants and etc. The other, and one of great concern in the state of California, is water quality degradation. So this new act says that we must develop these sustainability plans within these various basins in California in order to make sure that we're sustaining our precious groundwater supplies. So the program on Monday afternoon, we actually have several agencies which will report on what they're doing within their area, because not all of these 6 items actually affect all of the areas in the state of California. So we'll have an individual from the Sacramento Valley, we'll have an individual from Monterey County on the coast, and we'll have an individual from the west side of the San Joaquin Valley, and also down in Ventura. Each of those areas has different challenges, and we'll listen to them as to what their plans are in order to address these challenges and develop their sustainability plans. We have one last speaker there, which will talk about what they're doing to combat subsidence. There's some pretty innovative things that are taking place out there in order to minimize the subsidence that has happened and continues to happen. So that's our program for Monday afternoon. I think it'll be a good program for those in attendance to learn what's going on and how are people actually addressing some of the aspects within this new law.
So, Jim, how would that things like subsidence, for example, affect the listeners in the Los Angeles basin, for example?
Again, anytime we pump groundwater out, we leave a void below the surface, and the surface ground will actually subside or actually move downward. So it can create problems with buildings, structures, water wells, anything above ground. If you look in the San Joaquin Valley, since the 50s, we have areas here where we've had subsidence up to 20 plus feet, which if that were in a municipal area, that would create a tremendous amount of damage. So this is a very important part of managing our groundwater extractions to supply our water needs.
Yeah, I'm sure this is, a new kind of a regulatory burden on the growers and the water districts and the agencies to implement this. But at face value, it sounds like this is a really good thing to do. I mean, we don't want our ground sinking, and we don't want to run out of groundwater. It's our savings account for when, for example, we're in a drought. We pump groundwater, and if there's none there, so. I think it's really great that we have this act, and I really look forward to seeing what all these people have to say on Monday about how it's going in implementing it, because I'm sure it's new, and it's probably a challenge, and it's kind of tough.
And what an excellent plan you put together for that.
Yeah, excellent.
So I guess the next thing that is on the docket for the conference is the implication of decreasing ag acreage or irrigated ag acreage, something that's been talked about, during the drought as these water resources are diminishing. The ground is being fallowed because there's not enough water to go around, or it's taken out of production for one reason or another. So, Jim, would you share with us how the conference is going to address this going forward?
The reality of the fact here in California that we probably will have acres of agriculture coming out of production presents a unique challenge to the agricultural sector. And regardless of a wet winter or a dry winter, we know that we'll have droughts here in California forever. So now we're trying to plan for how can we address the shortages of water, how can we address making sure that our water supplies are, like the first session, sustainable. So a few things that are going to be shared there is Dan Howes from Cal Poly, from the Irrigation Training Research Center. He's going to talk about some of the innovative things that are being done in the academic area to try and come up with different thoughts and technologies to address the possibility of not having as much water and having to farm fewer acres, but still stay productive and healthy. We need our farmers to stay productive and healthy, otherwise they can't continue to produce the food that all of us consume. In California, we have a little over 1 million acres of almonds and about 250,000 acres of pistachios. So Cal Poly has been working on a study to develop a water applied versus yield curve. So they're looking at, when I apply water, how much yield do I receive for each unit of water that I apply? And not always more water produces more product. So they're trying to come up with some very specific numbers to help us realize how much yield we'll get from how much water we apply. This will help growers find that economic point that makes the most sense. Or if they have limited water supplies, they can plan on how to address the acreage that they have planted in order to maximize their economic situation with limited water supplies. So that one, I personally look forward to that. I think that's one of the things that the university is going to have to do in the future, is to research exactly how much water is needed in order to maximize the yield. And that doesn't necessarily mean get as much product as we possibly can, but it's maximize the yield based upon its value back to the grower. So I look forward to that. We also, in this section, the Groundwater Sustainability Act is going to challenge growers. In certain areas, growers may not have as much water available in the future once these plans are put in place. In many areas, we're over-extracting groundwater. Growers need to come up with a plan in order to manage the acreage that they own in order to minimize negative financial impacts. So we have several growers talking about what their plans are in order to address the possibility, the real possibility, of having less water than they currently do in the future. So we have two growers, one from down in the southern part of Kern County, and we have another, which is a dairyman. Now, dairymen are concerned about not only the amount of water that they have, but there are certain pressures being put upon them in order to make sure that they address the water quality degradation from applying water that's used in the production of milk. So we have two different perspectives, one grower in an orchard and another dairyman. Finally, we have a very large grower here in California, J.G. Boswell. They farm in multiple basins, and they'll be sharing with us some of the things that they're doing in order to better cooperate with their neighbors in order to ensure that all their neighbors have sufficient amounts of water in order to make their land as productive as possible. So I think that's going to be an exciting session, hearing especially from growers what their innovative plans are to address the requirements within this law and helping to sustain our water supplies.
Yeah, it's always good to hear the growers' perspectives. Those are the guys that feed us, and that's the challenge. That sounds great, Jim. And then rolling over into the joint session on the next day, which you planned with a couple of other fellows, tell us more about this Simplot Smart Farm that's going to be discussed, and also the Irvine Ranch Water District presentation.
Well, Simplot is a major manufacturer of various chemicals used in agriculture, in particular fertilizers. They realize that if they don't come up with innovative and creative ways for their growers to make every acre as productive as possible with minimal inputs, they won't be able to sustain themselves financially. So they realize that we will indeed have fewer acres that we can irrigate with the limited supplies that we have. So they have a complete management program that we're working on developing with growers in order to change the way that we farm, in order to use exactly the amount of inputs that are required in order to maximize the financial position of the growers. So they're looking not only at just water, they're looking at fertilizers and growth hormones and various things that growers use to produce the crops and the food that we eat. So I look forward to hearing about what a large organization like Simplot is doing in order to ensure that their future is sustainable, but more importantly, their customers' future is sustainable. So I think we have some eye-opening technologies and plans that a large organization like Simplot has to offer their growers here in the state of California.
Yeah, and in addition to making their customers, the farmers, more profitable, it's probably making them more sustainable too, and using resources more responsibly and that sort of thing, I would bet. And I'm going to just ask Rob. Rob, we have about 5 more minutes, or what are we at on time?
No, go ahead. That's interesting.
Okay,
Keep going.
Very good. And then the Irvine Ranch Water District, Jim?
And the Irvine Ranch is down in Southern California. It used to be a large agricultural production area. It's now home to a lot of people. So agriculture and people have to coexist in that particular area. They're going to share with us what they're doing with their water supplies, primarily reusing municipal effluent in order to irrigate agricultural type crops. So we look forward to hearing what they're doing not only in the urban area with their water reuse programs, but in their reuse programs in agriculture. And that's one area that we will continue to focus on in the future, which is reuse of our water supplies. Water doesn't go away. If it does evaporate, it returns to earth and rain. But we need to look at ways to continue to use that water multiple times.
So in kind of wrapping up, Jim, the last Ag session is going to talk about innovations. How would you highlight that?
The last section in particular is going to talk about some of the things that are being done in the various areas in the state of California to use either alternative water supplies or to recycle. So we heavily weighted this towards the recycling because that is something of great interest and great focus. So we have several people throughout the state which are implementing recycling programs, and they're going to share to the rest of the group some of their successes and their failures and give guidance to us as to what others can plan in other areas of the state.
Yeah, I know that the speaker from Bowles Farming, that's a recent new hire, like a vice president of technology on a farm. Wow. They're working with drones and sensors and really trying to do a better job of gathering data and making better decisions. I really look forward to that one as well. And the Imperial Irrigation District, the districts have to keep up with what the farmers are doing. They've got to deliver the water in such a way that the farmers can irrigate efficiently with all this new technology. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward, Jim. We'll see you, I guess, on Sunday or Monday to kick off the conference. And any other last thoughts about it? How can people learn more about it?
I want to reach out to the people that are listening. You can go to the website, CAI.org. You can learn more information about the upcoming conference. There's also a section there where you can review things that have happened in the past. And you're welcome to contact any of the directors, and we welcome you to Sacramento, and we look forward to a great, successful conference.
Yeah, and Jim, hopefully we can bring you back on the show just to talk more about what Ag H2O does, just so the listening audience can realize that there's some great work being done in agriculture to be more energy and water efficient, be more productive, be more sustainable, and you and your organization are at the forefront. So we'd like to hear more from you about some of the projects that you're involved in with utilities and farmers and such too.
All right, I look forward to that. Thank you.
All right, well, folks, hopefully if somebody's in the Sacramento area at the beginning of next week, go to CAII.org to learn more about the conference. But you can see that we've got a great lineup, and we really look forward to seeing a few of you up there. Mike and I will be working it.
And I think I want to attend the discussion about the Groundwater Management Act.
Yeah.
That, I think, applies to
everyone.
Everybody.
It applies to everybody, yeah. On the urban, the ag side, we don't have any groundwater. We have spent our savings account. Yeah. It's very scary.
I'm going to sneak it over from the landscape side, or from the urban side over to the ag side for that one. Hopefully I won't get kicked out.
I don't know, Jim. Are we going to let him in our sessions?
Well, since we know Mike, we will.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Rob, are we ready for a commercial break?
Yeah, we're going to take a little break from our great sponsors. We'll be back to the Water Zone in just a minute, so everybody stay tuned.
All right, thank you, Jim.
Did you know that an irrigation system that has a leak of just 1/32 of an inch in diameter, that's the thickness of a dime, wastes 6,300 gallons of water per month or 75,000 gallons per year? Well, with more solvent cement experience than anyone on the planet, Weldon formulates their products not just to meet a standard, but to exceed it. Weldon products are designed to provide even greater safety margins, often able to make up for common mistakes or less than ideal installation conditions, reducing the chance for leaks and costly callbacks. Weldon's invention of solvent cement over 60 years ago revolutionized the piping industry. From day one, Weldon has led the industry with their broad range of high-performing solvent cements, primers, and cleaners, bringing unique solutions to professional contractors and homeowners. Along the way, Weldon has earned the loyalty of millions of professional contractors who trust their products and depend on their outstanding customer service, live technical hotline, troubleshooting services, and free training. And because they care about the environment, Weldon was the first manufacturer to develop and offer a complete line of low VOC cements. Their hottest formulation is Weldon 750 Hot Weld, a one-step, fast-setting blue PVC solvent cement specifically formulated for superior, long-term, trouble-free performance. So whether you're a professional contractor or just a backyard do-it-yourselfer, choose Weldon, the trusted global leader in solvent cements for leak-free plastic piping systems. To learn more about their complete line of products or technical training, visit the web at www.weldon.com or call their technical service hotline at 877-477-8327.
Are you presently part of the irrigation industry as a worker or business owner? Do you want to learn how you and your staff can boost your knowledge and productivity? Then you should check out Irrigator Technical Training School. Irrigator Tech is the leading source of quality instruction serving all facets of the irrigation industry. Their courses provide a basic, easy-to-understand approach that raises the skill level, competency, and professionalism of landscape and irrigation personnel through practical education and services. Irrigator Tech combines classroom and real-life hands-on training, leading to a well-recognized certification that both customers and employers demand. Irrigator Tech's specialized courses can help you quickly become a certified irrigation auditor or a certified installer, repair, maintenance, or backflow technician. Courses also include certificates in smart water application or becoming a certified tree worker. Most importantly, all certifications are state recognized, and Irrigator Tech offers annual renewal classes to help keep your certification up to date. So whether you work in California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, or Arizona, there's an Irrigator Tech class near you. For more information on how to jumpstart your career, call Irrigator Tech toll-free 866-614-1755 or visit them on the web at irrigatortech.com. That's toll-free 866-614-1755 and on the web at irrigatortech.com.
Hi, welcome back to the Water Zone on KCAA 1050 AM and 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, and also on Ustream. So tonight is our Ag Show with our guest host, Miss Ingy Bisconer and Paul McFadden from the Toros MIB Group. And turn it back over to you guys.
Thanks, Rob. Our next guest is John Topham. John, are you there?
I am here, Paul.
Yay! Congratulations. Thank you for making the time and the effort to participate in the Water Zone.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. Thank you very much.
So let me introduce you to the audience. John is the general manager of the irrigation design and construction company in Patterson, California, up in Northern California. Prior to that, John was involved in technical sales at Bayer Material Science in Stockton and general manager of the Golden State Irrigation Company, also in Stockton. John is a member of the board of directors of the International Irrigation Association and past president of the California Ag Irrigation Association. John holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in agricultural engineering. So having said all that, welcome to the Water Zone.
Well, thank you very much, Paul.
Could you maybe tell the listeners a little bit more about your background and how you got started up in the irrigation and the water industry, please?
Sure. Yeah, it feels like I've been a part of the irrigation industry my whole life. I grew up in Riverside, California, down by you, and my family farmed citrus and avocados. I would have been the fourth generation to farm had that been the route that I'd gone. Farming went through some tough times in the early 80s, and my father ended up opening a retail irrigation store to serve the ag and turf and landscape industries. I grew up working in that store until I went to Cal Poly, and while I was in college, my father called me one day and told me that he was selling the store and wasn't going to be farming anymore. So I was fortunate to have some contacts in the irrigation industry and ended up being hired by Golden State Irrigation in Stockton, and did quite a few things for them while I was there. Started out designing irrigation systems using AutoCAD, and then moved into outside sales, and then eventually became the general manager there. took a short break from the industry in 2002 when I worked for Bayer Material Science, and then in 2004 started irrigation design and construction with Mike Conrad, and have been there since.
Yeah, well, I'm dating myself by remembering you as a little boy at Topham and Sons.
yeah. I didn't know if you wanted me to bring that up or not, Ingy, but
Ingy's only 29.
Oh, again.
With a few years of experience.
I think it's fantastic that little boy has ended up being you and all the wonderful things that you're doing. Well, tell us about what's going on with the rain and snowfall in your area and how it's affecting both the short and long-term ag irrigation scene. And then, of course, the million-dollar question, is the drought over?
Well, that's funny. I was earlier today, I'm a skier. I like to go skiing quite a bit. And earlier today I saw that one of the places we like to ski has received 24 feet of snow in January alone.
That would be Mammoth. That would be Chair 5. Right?
Exactly, yeah. Actually, this is up in the Tahoe area, but yeah, it's the same. It's the same there as well.
Yeah.
And that's what they normally get in an average season. And things certainly have not been average the last 5-6 years. But yeah, you're hearing stories like this both in Northern California and Southern California. It's been an amazing year as far as rain and snowfall goes. It's obviously a blessing that we're getting it now, but also a bit of a curse. It's tough when, especially for agriculture, when you get this much rain in this short of a time period. It really saturates everything, and you start to see flooding, and it can adversely affect crops. The land just can't deal with the amount of rain coming at it all at one time. It's been good for reservoir levels, which is a long-term thing. It helps increase those levels. They've been so low for so long. I was driving on over to Monterey County earlier this week, and there's a San Luis Reservoir up on Highway 152 there that when it's full, water is on both sides of the freeway. And this is the first time in probably 10 years that I've seen water on both sides of that highway. So it was nice to see. That it helps with crops. The rain has helped with crops coming through when they start to push in the spring. There's going to be plenty of moisture in the soil when they wake up to get them going on a good footing. I think one of another long-term issue that we really need to think about is how the general public views all this rain that we've had. I think your average person doesn't really think about how all this rain really doesn't last. It comes in a very short time period, but we need to make the best use of it over the long term. We've really built up a lot of good momentum over the last few years in addressing some of the issues our state faces with water usage, and I'm hopeful that we don't lose that because of the rain that we've received. So, to your main question, is the drought over? I heard you ask that to Jim earlier as well, and ultimately it looks like in the northern part of the state anyway, it probably is for the short term. However, that's no reason to act like it's not going to happen again, because we all know that it's going to. It happens.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yes, the answer is yes in the northern part of the state, but we definitely shouldn't consider it gone forever.
Right.
Yeah, if you take today as a 1 point on a decade timeline, let's say it's over. But if you look at the rest of the timeline, water availability certainly is below that threshold. If you use drought as the kind of the line of demarcation, if you will, we're only over it for a short period of time. We can drop below that line in a relatively short order. So.
Well, if you define it just as precipitation, yeah, the precipitation drought is over, but not the management and the shortages that we have. Those remain.
Sure, that's a very good way to put it. I haven't heard it put that way before.
Also, this is Mike from the landscape side, but officially the drought isn't over till Governor Brown says the drought emergency is over. And I know the State Water Resources Control Board is continuing to state that they need to wait to see what happens in April and the snowpack in April. How does that compare? Because just because it's rained a lot in the first part of the year doesn't mean March, April is going to be as good.
That's another definition.
True.
Is the regulatory drought.
Yes, the regulatory drought, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a contest to give away a $100 gift certificate if somebody can guess the date the governor is going to come out and say the drought's over. That's a truism.
John, obviously you're very active and been active in a long time, starting at a very young age in the industry, but really has stepped forward into more of a, not only a state leader, but a national leader in this discussion. And I want to probe that a little bit and see, obviously you've had some successes. What motivates you, and why are you so engaged, and what results have you seen as a result of your involvement?
Paul, I think being a voice in whatever industry you're in is an important thing to do. I think the irrigation industry has struggled to really find its place in the greater agricultural world. You look at equipment manufacturers, tractor manufacturers, fertilizer and chemical companies, and even some water districts to a certain degree. I think they've done a good job in becoming a recognized portion of the agricultural industry. Outside of the irrigation industry, there aren't too many people that can tell you much about what kind of drip emitter or sprinkler a grower is using. But you ask somebody what kind of tractor a farmer uses, and they're going to know, whether it's John Deere or Case or whatever it may be. I think I would really like to see the irrigation industry be known the way companies like that are. And I see volunteering in organizations like the Irrigation Association, as well as the California Ag Irrigation Association, as a way to start doing that. As an industry, we have a lot to contribute to the productivity of agriculture, and I think we could do a lot more to promote our abilities.
Yeah, the equipment side. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that the equipment, the fertilizer, and the seed, and all those components of farming seem to have a lot of, if you will, attention, and built up over the years, and water not so much, because it used to be plentiful and it used to be inexpensive, but that's changing rapidly, and now irrigation needs to gain that same stature in the farm input portfolio, and you're doing a great job of elevating that with your volunteer work, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, thank you. But yeah, that's exactly my point. I think it's important that we become thought of that way, as being just as important as any other agricultural input.
I think one thought that comes to my mind is when you look at the percentage of all the irrigated lands, not just in the country, but say just in the state of California, and what percentage uses micro and drip irrigation or even mechanical irrigation, it's a relatively small percentage compared to, say, farmers that use tractors or farmers that use fertilizer. And so to me, the irrigation industry seems a bit more fragmented, just in the fact that 15%, let's say, use efficient irrigation as we know it with drip and micro, and then there's a certain percentage that uses sprinkler, but it doesn't even come to half of all the farmland that even use any kind of irrigation. So that may be a reason why we're so fragmented as an industry.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I also think, Paul, I know you and I have talked in the past about how irrigation system maintenance is a huge component that not a lot of dealers, such as our company, deal or spend much time on. We've been, especially the last 10 years or so, just so busy putting in new systems that we could do a better job helping growers to maintain what they have and to continue to get the level of efficiency they get when it's first installed. That's one area that I think we could do more and should do more.
Part of one of the challenges, too, is that to do a better job and to adopt technology, it takes money. It takes an investment. Yeah. And one of the challenges has been to convince farmers that, yes, they acknowledge that the technology is great, but hey, I just can't afford it. So one thing that's on the scene these days much more strongly than in the past is programs like SWEEP or EQIP. And I know IDC is very involved in helping farmers access those funds so they can modernize their farms with a little bit of help and incentivization from our political leadership. So tell us a little bit about how you've done that, because you've been very successful in it.
Yeah, the EQIP program is through the USDA offices located in each county in California. It's a relatively simple program to apply for. It covers a lot of different things, not just irrigation efficiencies, but our industry has really seen a growth in, say, the last probably 10 to 15 years in the usage of that program, and the program has really shifted its focus to a certain degree toward irrigation and water efficiency. The application process is simple. We know, based on the locations that we have offices in, we know our USDA NRCS representatives pretty well and have good working relationship with them. And that helps when growers go to apply for those grants. They can say that they're going to be working with IDC. The people there know us, we know them, so it's a very seamless process for a grower to go through and to get grant funding for their projects. We also utilize the SWEET program that you mentioned. That's a state-run program through the California Department of Food and Agriculture. That is a little different in that it's a pretty extensive application that a grower has to fill out. The growers have to have really very accurate usage data from prior years on what their water use has been, as well as if they're going to be replacing a diesel engine with an electric one, how much fuel they've used over the years, to show what their greenhouse gas emission reductions will be if a proposal is put in place. So that greenhouse gas emission reduction is a totally new piece to tie to irrigation efficiency funding, and so it makes that program unique. It's fairly straightforward, though. It is, like I said, it is an extensive application, but it's fairly straightforward. Growers can apply to install solar panels to offset electricity usage on electric pumps, or, as I mentioned, they can replace diesel engines with electric ones. And they've both been very useful for growers. The SWEET program, I think, started in 2014. Was the first year that they had funding, so that's only been around for a few years, while EQIP has been around for quite a number of years. But they've both been very successful in getting growers to transition to new technologies and to reduce their reliance on furrow and flood irrigating.
I was doing a little analysis last month for the Irrigation Association's Drought Summit, and in the process of that analysis, I talked to leadership at CDFA on what the results of the SWEEP program have been so far and what it's projected to be. And, they've committed, I think, almost $50 million to this program. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there are very, very significant anticipated water savings from these programs. And these aren't just random numbers that somebody's put down on a piece of paper. All of these applications, I think you would agree and know, are vetted by our University of California personnel, and it's a competitive process. Not everybody gets the money that applies. You have to prove that you're going to, have these savings.
Exactly.
So I would you agree that the projected water savings, or greenhouse gas reductions, or whatever the parameters are, would you agree that what have been submitted are pretty close to what you're actually seeing, or that you will see? I know that some of these funds have already resulted in systems and results, but some of them are in process and are happening in the future. So you feel pretty good about, hey, we the people, our tax dollars are being spent for this. Are we getting some good bang for our buck?
I do feel that we are, Ingy. Like I said, the program started in 2014. Our first involvement in any applications was in 2015, and those systems weren't installed until last year, 2016. So we have not been able to really see. Well, we don't have a lot of data yet, is what it comes down to. But yes, ultimately, I do think so. In that application process, yeah, you have to have real verifiable data of what you've used as far as fuel or water or other inputs. But yeah, you have to verify what you're going to do, which is good. You know, it holds people accountable and it makes sure that the money is being spent wisely.
Yeah, I really love it. It's helping modernize our agriculture, which is drastically needed. We need the food. Yeah. We need to be more efficient with the resources that are consumed in agriculture. All right.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for talking about that with us.
Sure.
So, given all of that, John, what are your thoughts? What do you see happening? What's your vision for the industry as an irrigation dealer, but also someone who's using efficient, designing and installing and selling efficient irrigation systems to growers to be better stewards of those resources? What do you see happening over the next few years and even decades as an industry in California?
Well, that's a tough question, Paul.
I won't hold you to it.
Was that
yeah.
Yeah, we're going to call you John Nostradamus.
I'm going to hold you to it.
Well, you know, I talked about it earlier, but I'm really hopeful that we don't forget the situation that we've been in the last 5 or 6 years with the drought, and that we don't lose all the momentum that we've built up. You know, both cities and agriculture need water. There's no getting around that. I think we need to, you know, it's easy to say, but I think we need to come to a realistic expectation of what each requires and what is important to us as a state.
And the environment needs water too.
Exactly. You know, it is an important use of water. It's an important part of our state. Unfortunately, based on our history, I think we're going to continue to struggle in coming up with real long-term solutions. I think we're going to struggle with dealing with the fact that we don't have a reliable source of water in this state. You know, there are plenty of positive things people and industry have been and are continuing to do. But ultimately, I think it's pretty easy to blame. You know, no matter what group you claim to be a part of, I think it's easy to blame another group for the state's water issues or water problems. But really, it requires all of us to figure out how we're going to work with the water that we have and make the most use out of it, and stop blaming each other for the lack of water. So,
yeah,
not the most positive outlook, but I am hopeful that things will improve over time.
Yeah, I'm hoping that at least the public, I think the business community has a little longer attention span, but that the public won't just revert back to, oh, it's raining, it's over. Yeah, we need to make it as we said earlier, Mike, a water ethic, as other countries have. I'm reading a book by an Israeli who, talks about how children in Israel grow up with a nursery rhyme that says something that we have to save every drop, and we have a nursery rhyme here in the United States that says,
rain, rain, go away.
Rain, rain, go away, come back another day. This is just the exact opposite in Israel. And we need to, as a society, have a water ethic and value water. And I'm hopeful that people got the message this time. It was really scary to think that in our lifetimes it may not ever rain again. I'm so happy.
Exactly.
I'm so so happy it's raining.
Yes.
I think there has been so much more effective outreach by the water agencies throughout the state of California that some of that has had to sink into the mindsets of consumers. But also, there's been a number of water agencies that have had to raise rates or implement tiered rate structures, because when you reduce water consumption, which we did in 2015 by 22, 23%, that's revenue that's decreased. Mm-hmm. And as you know, water agencies have a very high fixed cost kind of financial structure, so they've had to raise rates. The single most effective way to reduce water consumption in the urban community is to raise rates. That's been proven, and that's happening. So that's a reinforcement. Just when it hits our pocketbook, we pay more attention to it. Sure. I think
yeah.
It'll last longer.
Yeah.
One thing I might add to your thoughts, John, which I completely agree with, is the fact that we see the rain coming down. We see in the news the reservoirs filling up that don't have the big bathtub ring around them any longer. They're filling up. The streams and creeks are flowing again. But I think the one thing that we can't see, and our previous guest, Jim Anshoos, discussed it a little bit, is the groundwater situation. Mm-hmm. And, it's kind of a three-legged stool. We have the groundwater, and the surface water and the conveyance system. Without all of that working together in kind of collaboration and in good, healthy condition, any one of those three could really throw us into a tailspin from a state water perspective. And I think
the groundwater is still in a drought, so there's another definition.
Yeah,
underground drought. We have an underground drought. We have
the entire. If you look at the maps and so forth, the Central Valley. I checked it yesterday. The groundwater situation throughout the Central Valley, almost all the way to the Oregon border, is in a severe overdraft position. And so we can't see it. We can feel it, and we can look at it on a map. But I think it's often overlooked, and I think we ought to be cognizant of that as well.
Yeah, very true, Paul.
Well, I think also the state should be looking for more ways to get rid of some of the red tape to make some projects happen. I mean,
we need to recharge our groundwater, and there's some great projects where they're opening the gates on the rivers and letting it flood ag land here in the winter when the trees and vines are dormant, and that's working really well. But it took millennia to create those groundwater aquifers. It's going to take a while for that much water to sink through the soil again and recharge. But we've got to start. We've got to start doing it now. Yep.
I'm still thinking we get the water train and fill those 132 rail cars up with water and bring it on down to Southern California.
132 rail cars. Well, that would probably last a week.
John, in the little time we have left, John, any final thoughts?
I think
no. In the sake of the time that we have left, I just want to thank you both for giving me the opportunity and to talk to you today, and thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate you coming on the show, and thanks everybody for listening. This is a place where you get to learn a lot of stuff from smart people, and I appreciate that from our crew down in El Cajon, Mike and Ingy and Paul, and our guest today. Thanks for listening to The Water Zone. We'll be here next week with some special guests. We're going to take a trip out to the Journey School, charter school in Irvine, tell you what Toro and Weiland Foundation did. So everybody have a great week, and hope for more rain, and most importantly, think blue.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Exploring science in the sea. A foggy California coastline is a staple of Hollywood mysteries and horror tales, enfolding everything
for more local radio every day, tune into KCAA Loma Linda.
Hey, Bonnie, your ride is looking sweet, and that bumping sound.
Yeah, Commish, thanks for your referral to Alan Ed's Auto Sound and their expert installations with custom sound systems.
That's right, Commish. Alan Ed's has a wide variety of mobile electronics and accessories from car stereos to vehicle security, including complete interior and exterior upgrades, as well as a full line of restyling options for your car, truck, boat, or off-road vehicle. Alan Ed serves the Inland Empire and San Diego and Los Angeles counties. You can also catch Alan Ed's Auto Sound at upcoming events: Extreme Auto Fest, Hot Import Nights, OC Block Party, the Dub Show, the Lowrider Super Show, SEMA in Vegas, and also the LA Auto Show. Stop by the Alan Ed's Auto Sound booth and see our friend Alden Allen, the event coordinator and social media specialist.
Check out Alan Ed's Auto Sound website at www.al-eds.com or call 888-900-8800.
Alan Ed's Auto Sound. Big bump.
Tell weeds where to go with Chateau herbicide from Valent USA Corporation. Growers and PCAs count on Chateau because it's effective on more than 90 of the toughest winter annual broadleaf and grass weeds in crops like almonds, pistachios, walnuts, grapes, and alfalfa. Chateau delivers proven long-lasting residual control, and Chateau can be used on new plantings and young non-bearing trees and vines. Even better, Chateau is weather-ready and farm-ready. Chateau stays where you put it and doesn't photodegrade as it waits for moisture activation. Other pre-emergence herbicides can leach, co-distillate, and or photodegrade, reducing performance. And Chateau is activated with only a 1/4 inch of rainfall or irrigation water. Take control and keep control of weeds with Chateau herbicide. To learn more, talk to your PCA or go to valent.com/.